Hello everyone, welcome back. This channel is about tinkering with different technologies. We've spoken a little bit about stable diffusion and automatic 11, but today I want to do something different and talk about large language models. We have commercial products like OpenAI ChatGPT, Google Bard, Microsoft Bing Chat, and even Character.AI, all taking the world by storm. But what happens if you want to build your own chatbot and talk with characters for free? Well, that's where something called Oobabooga, and that's a pretty hard name to say, but Oobabooga is a text generation web UI similar to the automatic 11, and it runs a Gradio web UI for running large language models, such as this GPT or llama or GALACTICA or OPT, and we'll get into this in a moment and I'll show you how to install this and get this up and running. But I first want to talk about the open source LLM leaderboard, and I'll provide this link in the description below. So here you can see when you're looking for a model to download and you want to know if it's one of the leading models currently, you can take a look at this board and play around with the models based on your interest. The other thing I'll just quickly show you is ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT 3.5, but I asked it, what name may I call you? And it responds, giving me, well, you can call me ChatGPT. And I asked what is its purpose in life, and of course it was vague, but it gave a response. And then I asked what was your favorite topic to talk about, and it gave again a very broad response because my questions are not specific enough. So if you asked it very specific questions, it could do things and it can answer you in very specific ways. So I did this similar thing with Bard. I asked, what may I call you? So may call me Bard. And I asked Bard what's its purpose in life, is to help people, provide information, answer questions. But when I asked Bard, what is your most favorite topic to talk about, it was a little bit more specific, giving a nice bullet points here. Talk about human experience or the natural world, or talk about creativity such as music, writing and art, and so on. So that's just a quick introduction to ChatGPT and Bard. There's also another one here called Character.AI, where you can talk to various characters that have personas. Be very careful with this site because potentially not safe for work purposes, but you can pick one of the characters that you want to talk to and interact with them. They'll have a personality and they'll have interests, and get very creative and funny. Sometimes even topics can get down the wrong rabbit hole, and trying to come back out of that rabbit hole is another interesting conversation. So I'll leave that description as well for you to play around with. But the purpose of this video is to do this on your local machine. So let's make sure that you download Git. You're going to need Git to install. I'm not going to show you how to install Git. You can do that on your own, but you will need Git. You will also need conda. Actually, maybe this is optional. When you install the Oobabooga web UI, it uses mini conda, so you probably don't need this one, but it's always good to have because there's chances are that you will be, if you're like me, trying to install things locally, you're going to need either the Python virtual environment or conda as your package manager. So you can go ahead and install that if that's something that you're interested in. But this is where we want to be, right? So you can see a little bit of the UI here. You can write some text and it provides you some responses. Okay, and there's some tabs across the top. It's got different modes. It's got a chat mode, the default mode, and the notebook mode. And then the rest of the tabs are various settings that you can play with. Alright, so let's have a look. It supports multiple backends. We can train our own LoRa's, which we're not going to do in this video, but that's pretty interesting. Then it has an extensions framework. So if we look at the extensions framework, you can talk with text-to-speech. You can send requests to your automatic 1111 and ask the site to give you pictures back. So we're gonna try that out and see if that works for us. Okay, so we have extensions. Then there's custom characters, so we can build custom characters, giving them our own, giving them a name, giving them a greeting, providing a picture, and giving them a persona. So we'll also cover that in this video. Alright, so let's start with installing this on our machine. We, of course, are going to do the one-click installer for this, which will use the mini conda, but if you want to do the manual installation, then you can follow this down below. But the setup is pretty similar. So they're saying you need a terminal. Right, and you need to clone the repo. Yeah, I'm giving the folder, the target folder, a name, but if you leave this name off the end, it'll make the folder Text-Generation-Webui. Let's go into that folder. Then they say you just have to run start Windows. Okay, so let's run start Windows. It's creating some installer directory and it's downloading mini conda. And that's why we didn't need conda prior to this, because it's going to package it all up for us, which is quite nice. Right, so here it's asking us what GPU we have. I have a NVIDIA, so we'll select A. And then it's asking if we want to use CUDA 11 instead of 12. And I want to use 12, so we say no here. Okay, we say yes, we want Python to run. Okay, now it's downloading the PyTorch libraries. So this might take a while, but I'll leave that to run and we'll come back in a moment. Okay, so it's finished downloading and installing, and it says that we can access the website on this URL. You might notice that the port number here, 7860, is the same port as automatic 1111. So we will fix that in a moment so that there's no clashes. But let's go ahead and open up this, and you can see we have a chat window over here with AI saying, how can I help you today? If you try to say, what is the weather like today? Nothing happens. And if you look at your terminal window, it says that a model was not loaded. So if we go to the model over here, this drop down is empty, and that makes sense because we have not downloaded a model. So how do we download a model? Well, we got to go to Hugging Face, and we'll do that in a moment. So you got to head over to Hugging Face, and you got to search for one of these models. Let's say we want the Facebook OPT 1.3 billion model. Now, this one's a bit, if you click on files and versions, you can see that the PyTorch model is about 2 gigabytes to download. But what we need for this particular software, the Oobabooga Text-Generation-Webui software, is we need all these files, but there's a much easier way than downloading all the files individually, is you click on this icon here and it copies the name Facebook as the organization and then the project name here, OPT. And so if we go back to the UI and you paste that in here, you can click download now, and we look at the terminal and you can see it's starting to download. So it's placing this model into your folder. So this is the folder we did a git clone on, and then there's models, and it's created a folder here, Facebook OBT 1.3, and it's downloading all those files we saw in Hugging Face over here. So I'll list a few things in the description below for other models that you may want to look at to download. Okay. So let's just wait for this to download. I also have a way for you to download the same file from the command line, so I'll provide that as well. Alright, download is complete. So if we refresh the list, we have the model that we can choose, and then we have to say click on load. So we click the load button, successfully loaded. We can go back over to the chat and we can say hello and say what is the capital of shorts. And this is just basically an example. Alright. So we have the software running. There's a few other things I want to set up before we use all the features of the software. That is, some examples would be, if you go back to your LLM-webui folder and you click on the extensions, these are all the extensions that we can possibly enable. And if we look here at the session tab, there's the list here that you can enable them, so you can check these and enable them. But before you actually enable them, you've got to check that you have all the Python packages installed. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then also over here, if you want to do command line arguments, this doesn't persist. So checking these, from what I can tell, doesn't do anything from the UI. It's just if you had passed parameters from the command line when you started, they would tick them just to show you what the command line arguments that are switched on or off. Alright, so this has no effect making changes here from the UI. And when you make a save, it'll save to the settings file. So we're going to edit the settings file too. Alright, so let's go back to the terminal and close that down by pressing Ctrl+C. And you'll notice that we have this whole thing in brackets here. So that tells us we're in a conda virtual environment. And if I want to get out of this virtual environment, I just have to type conda deactivate, and now I'm out of the virtual environment. Okay, so that's one way, but now how do I get back in? Right, so to get back in, I need to run conda activate, but I need to make sure I've got all the right settings here. So let's type in start Windows bat. Alright, and if you look here, down at the bottom here, they've got this call the conda activate and provide in your environment directory. So what is this conda root prefix? If we scroll up, conda root prefix is the installer files conda, and then this is the rest of the path, and then install environmenter, if we scroll up, install environmenter is this, right? So if we construct all that, put it together, this is what it looks like. Okay, so it's install files, conda, condabin, conda.bat, activate, install files env, and we press enter, and now we're back in the conda virtual environment. So far so good. Now I mentioned earlier that I show you a way to download a model from the command line. So if we were in Hugging Face again, and I picked another model, so let's say it's this model over here that I want to download. What you can do is copy this, right, go back to your terminal, then you type Python download model.py, and let's expand that a bit. Okay, and then you paste in the name of the model that you're trying to download. This is how you do it from the command line. And press enter. There it goes, starts downloading that model into the models folder. So we can confirm that by going back to our checked out folder, click models, and there is the new model it's downloading. Okay. So I'll let that go through and then we'll come back. Wow, okay, these models are very big, so be prepared to have some free disk space taken up by these large models. Okay, so the download's done, and now we have our additional model, but I want to show you some preparation work for the extensions. So if you look at your extensions folder and you want to enable these extensions, you've got to look in each folder and see if there is a requirements.txt. So here's a requirements.txt in this folder, in the 11 labs folder, Google Translate. There's one not in here, but example would be here in OpenAI, there's requirements.txt. So before we enable the extensions, we actually have to do a few additional steps here. While we have the conda environment activated, we have to do this: pip install -r extensions, the extension name, and then the requirements.txt. So I'll have all the setup and commands in the description below, but we're going to go ahead right now and just run through all of these and have them installed. So I'll pause the video and come back to this when this is all done. But all I'm going to be doing is pip install each of the requirements.txt from all of those extension folders. Okay, so we've done all that, and just to quickly show you, these are all the commands that I ran to get all the extensions installed. Okay, now I like to use xformers as well, just to speed things up, and so that isn't installed by default. So I run this command for my machine because I'm using a GPU, and we've said I want the CUDA 12.1. So let's go ahead and install xformers. Okay, xformers has been installed. Let's run this command here just to verify that it's giving us the information we expect to see. So I expect to see the torch version to be the one I installed. CUDA should be available, and that's the ones I'm looking for. So that's all working. Now we can finally get to setting up the settings in order to use our extensions. So I'm going to deactivate just to get out of the Conda virtual environment, and I'm going to edit this file called cmd-flags.txt, and I want to add in a few parameters here. So here I'm enabling Xformers. I'm using BF16. That's just because my GPU is a 3000 series up. You can enable that. I've enabled auto devices. I want to auto launch so that when I run start windows.bat, I don't have to copy the URL. It'll automatically open up the URL in the browser. And to avoid it running on a port that conflicts with automatic 1111, I'm changing this from 0 to 1. Okay, so save that and close that down. Next is, if you directory that you cloned, there is a settings-template.yaml file. Go ahead, make a copy of that and rename the copy to settings.yaml. All right. And so what we want to do there is edit that one. Okay, and this is where we can just put in our extensions that we want to enable by default when we run the program. So let's save that. Alright, we are ready to start run Windows. You can see loading settings from the different extensions. The port is changed and it opened up our window. So if I go over to session, you can see the command line arguments are the ones we specified in our CMD file. So over here, and here we've got Xformers, auto devices, auto launch, and all that. That's here, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, over here. So here's the BF16 and the auto devices over here. And then of course, that YAML file, for the settings YAML file, these are the ones that are enabled. That's for the available extensions. If we look at our chat again, you can see we have this Celero TTS, okay? And we've got the link here for the automatic 1111 and a few things, but we haven't started the automatic 1111 website yet because we have to do something to get that working. But let's see if the text-to-speech works. So say something funny. Oops. I think we have to select a model. So go to the model, go over here. I had a few models to download, so we can just choose one of these, say load. Okay, go back to the chat and generate that.
You want to see my list?
Okay, and it gives us something that we can play, alright? So text-to-speech works. We're going to just switch that off for the remainder of the video because I really want to get to show you how to use this character gallery as well as the automatic 1111. So let's start off with the character gallery. Over here in the character gallery, you can see I've got a few characters. If I pick this one and I say refresh, then I get all of this up here. Alright, so a little welcome message, there's an icon, and how did this all get here? Well, if you look at your folder that you downloaded, there's this characters folder, and you can go and make your own characters. So the example one is this. They have the name of the character, the greeting message that comes at the top of the chat window, some persona, and then an example dialogue between you and the character. So this comes by default, but I've gone ahead and created a few other characters like Judy Hobbs. There's a greeting, there's Judy's persona, and example dialogue with Judy. And then once you have all these YAML files as well as a PNG, those appear here in this character gallery, and you can chat with different characters. So example for, actually let's pick Judy, refresh, and let's ask Judy a few questions. Right. Actually, I also want to change the model. Let's change the model to, let's pick this one. Why not? Say load. Okay. Go back to the chat and paste, what cases are you currently working on? I am assigned to the missing mammal case. Seems pretty accurate based on the movie. Right, let's say, what clues do you have thus far? Okay, let's try a different one. Have you interviewed any suspects yet? Alright, so I'm not quite exactly following my questions, but you know, it's something you can play with, tune parameters, and I have, prior to this video, had a conversation with Judy where she actually was interacting with my questions quite nicely. So this is something for you to work out on your own. So that's how you do characters. Now let's connect all of this up to Automatic 1111 and have pictures appear in our chat. Alright, so to do that, what you need to do is open up a terminal to your Automatic 1111 folder, and then you've got to edit this WebUI user.bat file. Okay, and what you've got to add is this listen. So --listen and --API, right? So you add that to your command line arguments, and then you save that. And so then when you run, that puts the Automatic 1111 API available to us. Okay, so that's the UI here for the Automatic 1111. That's that starting. Let's go back here, and if you click on this box here for the address and you press enter here, you see it gives you this tick, tells you that the API is found. Perfect. Switch this to Immerse Interactive, and then click on Get List of Checkpoints, and you get a drop-down list of all your checkpoints. You have a few parameters, a prompt prefix, negative prompts, width, height, refresh the sampling method. We can have different sampling methods. And then once you've picked your sampling method and your checkpoint, you click Force the Picture Response button. Now over here, when I type a message, send me a picture of yourself, and you click generate. You see it says is sending a picture. Now that's sending it to the automatic llm API and generating a picture for us. Okay. And it's interesting, but not quite Judy Hobbs, but that's where this becomes really imaginative. Okay, so that's how you can get pictures in your chat. Okay, so that is pretty much what I wanted to show you for today, and I hope you can play around with this, and don't forget about these great developments and the Oobabooga Text-Generation-Webui. It is, one of the great developments out there, and I'm sure there's many more. And there's other things that we can talk about, but at the end of the day, this is just a video on one particular topic. So that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to learn more about Stable Diffusion and Automatic 1111, check out the links below in the description. As always, please support this channel by subscribing and clicking the like button below.